Hello and welcome to Jay, a young person who is living up in Leamington Spa. I'm telling everybody where you're living, Jay. Is that all right?
That is fine, yeah.
You're going to have hordes of people just trying to find you in
I
Leamington Spa.
know. I'm gonna be having the paps outside. It'll be crazy.
Get the tea on. And Jay, you're going to tell us today about what it means to be a young person today, in today's world, and kind of what pressures you're dealing with. And also, do you know what? I'd love to hear what joys are going on as well for you, not just the hard stuff. Um, yeah. So, do you want to tell us a little bit about who you are? We know where you live, so we've come back to you on that.
Yeah. So I'm Jay. I obviously live in Leamington Spa, as you all already know. Uh, More than welcome to hit me up. I am 23 now, and I am a postgraduate student, so I'm doing a master's in animation. And I do that part time, and I also work part time in retail at the minute.
So, what does animation mean then? How does that work?
So animation, the stuff specifically that I work on is 2D, which means more like cartoon based as opposed to CGI like you'd see in modern films. Um, it's essentially a string of still illustrated images that are played back to back really quickly to produce a moving image.
Old school animation.
Yep.
Well, I like that. I might. You said to everybody that they can come and hit you up. I think I might be hitting you up to talk animation sometime.
Yeah.
Obviously, we'll find a way of paying for that because that's a proper job thing that is, and obviously it takes hours, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. So, obviously, like you say, it is like a proper job. So, for me, it is a hireable service. I'm known as None of That Jazz everywhere online, and including with services that can be paid for, like animation. Um, it does take a long time, um, and is quoted per the time that it's taken. So, depending on how complicated the project is, depends on the time taken to produce. Also goes along with that is the discussions back and forward with the person you're working with, um, to get that work right, basically.
And I am a nightmare when it comes to that end of it. I've got a
Yeah.
vision, and then I explain my vision, and then I say what I actually mean is this. I'm terrible to work with.
That's a very common thing with clients, actually. A lot of people think they're being a pain, but it's often just the fact that that's why you're hiring someone to produce it for you, is because you have a vision of something and you want to see it made real. But obviously, that's sometimes quite hard to get across when you can see it in your mind and you need to get it across to someone who can produce it for you. But it's very common to have that kind of back and forward tweaking and amendments um, with the person making it until it's what you imagined.
Bless you. That makes me feel a lot better.
Yeah, you're definitely not alone there.
Okay, so as we know, our podcast focuses on and is aimed at people in care or people on the edges of care. So, would you be able to give me a very brief description of your experience of care? And we've heard about what you're doing now, so just kind of roughly, what being in care meant to you.
um, yeah, so I won't go into my whole story because actually, for me, it was fairly uneventful, which is quite a pleasant thing to be able to say. I was in and out of care a little bit when I was younger, but then I fully went into care for my final and longest period when I was 13. Um, and I was also relocated. which was the biggest change for me, but also the best thing for me at the time, because it removed a lot of the influences that were having a negative impact on my life. I then stayed with the family I was living with until I left to go to uni. I would say that they are now my family.
There you go.
Which is really nice. I now have that support system. Obviously, I have left care now and I'm independent and living alone, but they are my family and we're still in contact and I still see them and visit and I have that support there. For me, going into care was obviously at the time quite traumatic. A lot of changes were happening, but I look back on it now as the best thing that ever happened to me. I've had a lot of opportunities that I wouldn't have had before, and I've grabbed all of the opportunities I could basically and made the best of it. And being able to go to uni, being able to do animation and being able to do all of the things that I do now was only because of going into care. I can't really imagine where I would be without it, actually. I don't think my life would be anything like it is.
Okay, we promise we're not going to talk about care all throughout this one, but I've got one extra question on that. So, did you feel like you were part of the family when the minute you moved into their house?
No, that did take a while. We actually there is a distinct point where I feel that changed, which I have always felt, and that was the first holiday away. I thought, to be fair, the household was kind of a little bit of a strung together, woven basket of a family anyway, so we were all a little bit on the fringes of just patchwork and trying to make it work as a unit. But the first time that we went away as a family, and I kind of completely forgot about all of that, and we were all there just having fun together as a unit. We came back from that holiday, and that was when my mindset of it changed, really, in that I was in it and they were my family now. That was the turning point, but it did take a while to get there. I think beforehand I was kind of separating myself a little bit because obviously I came in later, I was added to the mix, and I didn't want to kind of affect all of their relationships with each other. But during that holiday that changed and I realised I was part of it and they wanted me to be involved and part of it, and that's what I wanted as well. So we came back from that holiday and then we were a closer unit and I was involved.
Jay, it's almost as if I paid you to say that. Do you know that? Because I am a believer that fun creates, has the potential to create bonds. Just having fun together, and laughter, and because within fun, like you think about what makes for a good family, and okay, a good parent will help you get to university. A good parent will make sure that you've got your teeth are well looked after. You've got good health. But the best parent is the one who has fun with you, who plays with you, and chills,
definitely,
and just really, really chills with you and really listens to you.
I agree. Yeah, no, it was definitely a turning point because, like through just having fun and enjoying ourselves, you kind of forget about all of the differences that brought us together. It doesn't matter anymore because here we are together in the moment, like doing something we're all enjoying. And that kind of washes away like all of the reasons why you're there. Like, who cares anymore because you're enjoying yourself, so you might as well get involved, get stuck in with it, make the best of it,
get on with it, just live.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, okay, well, talking about just living, the theme of today's conversation is what's it like to be a young adult in today's world. We've talked about where we've had a brief experience, history of your life in care, and also checked in on where you're, at in terms of your studies. But Can you put? I think this is it's an unfair question because I don't know that we can answer it, any of us. It's like asking, describe the fashion of today. When you're actually in a culture, it's really hard to describe it. I can tell you about the fashions of the 1980s, but in the 1980s, I would say we don't really have a fashion today. But anyway, if you were going to talk about the high points of what it means to be a young person, what would they be? High points, low points. What are the defining features of being young today?
I think at the minute, obviously, everyone having gone through a lot of challenges in 2020, there have been a lot of things that have come out of that are obviously positive, that keep getting overlooked. They're important to discuss. I think one of those is obviously the connectivity that we have all learned to master this year. Obviously, we've all experienced lockdown, which has had a significant impact, be it positive or negative or both. I think a positive thing that has come out of that for me is reconnecting with so many people that I did kind of vaguely speak to before, but obviously we're all spread across the country now. Like, we're not living down the street from each other like we did when we were in school, and those kind of connections do kind of just slowly fade out when you're not in each other's lives day in and day out. And the lockdown has kind of promoted this reconnection. It doesn't matter where you live anymore, because even if you did live next door, you'd still have to make a Zoom call to speak to each other, because, you know, we were all socially distancing and in lockdown. And it means that a lot of people I wasn't speaking to, I'm speaking to again, which is a really nice thing. Being able to do these quizzes, everyone's been doing a lot of quizzes. Obviously this does come with a downside, is the fact that obviously, yeah, we are able to connect with each other digitally, but there is still a loneliness, because people need engagement with other people. We are social creatures, and for a lot of people, just, you know, doing a Zoom call and seeing each other on the screen is not going to cut it. People need more connection, and I know that has affected a lot of people. So yeah, it's kind of a positive and a negative at the same time, but it's very present right now, as that is the current situation, even as we are leaving lockdown.
It seems to me, because I was wondering why there's been pros and cons in my relationships. It hasn't been like a continual trajectory into connectivity. For some people, I've actually started to feel a real strain in that relationship, but for other people, I'm feeling much deeper. And I, just as you're speaking, I'm wondering if it's because a Zoom call there's no real room for small talk in a Zoom call, is there?
No, I feel like this is actually, I have a very good example of this, is my partner obviously is still working from home, because his job is software engineer, so he can do that from home as long as he's got the right equipment. They are spending a lot of time in constant meetings, and a lot of those meetings draw away from his productivity, and it's because they have these conversations they're having in scheduled meetings are conversations they would normally have in the office as a passing chat. Like, one would be going to get coffee and walk past, and they'd have that quick talk. Oh, how do you do this? Oh, I need to sign blah 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 off. But they can't do that anymore because they're not present with each other in one location. They have to schedule these meetings, which sometimes will end up going on for an hour, talking about stuff that they would ordinarily talk about in just a conversation at work. And it's very kind of regimented now. Like, obviously, if you're going to organise a Zoom call with somebody or a Teams meeting with somebody, it's very much a case of this is a structured thing, even if all it is aimed to do is kind of have a how's it going with you to check everyone's okay. It still feels very regimented and structured, and obviously that for some people can be a little bit off-putting because it's an unnatural type of communication. It feels unnatural.
Yeah, I think you're right. It suits me. I'm not one for small talk, so I like to get.
I do struggle with it as well sometimes. You get a little bit like, where's the end of this going, kind of thing. Um, that nervous smile of, do I say bye now and walk the other way, kind of thing. I agree. It's easier to just cut to the chase.
Yeah. I need something from you. Do you need something from me? Great, let's talk.
Excellent, yeah.
So coming out of lockdown, do you think are you coming out of lockdown? What are you doing at the moment?
I am definitely out of lockdown. I work in retail. I work at New Look, at a retail park as well. So, surrounded by a lot of other shops. I came out of lockdown a while ago to get us ready to reopen, ready to trade. And I'm back to working, almost my full hours again. So, I'm at work, obviously, encountering a lot of people. Still in a safe environment, you know, like keeping a safe distance, and obviously we're all required to wear masks now. But yeah, I am fully out of lockdown in that respect, which means I have regained my social relationships with my colleagues, which was something I was missing because having moved here essentially alone in this location, mainly the people I know here are my colleagues at work and fellow students on the course, and the course is obviously fully online only at the minute because they can't manage people on campus. So having my relationships with my colleagues rekindled is actually very refreshing. I was getting to the point in lockdown where I was speaking to old friends from school on Zoom, but I wasn't really seeing anyone other than my partner every day. So it is nice to be out of lockdown, but obviously still remaining safe.
Yeah. So have we talked about the challenges and benefits that lockdown brought to you?
Yeah, so for me, the challenges obviously were I do a job that I can't work from home. I was fully furloughed. And one of the main challenges for me was just finding what to do with myself for 2 months. I had no idea what to do with myself. I tried to pick up some hobbies. I did a lot of video gaming, and bits and pieces, but towards the end of it, I was kind of just chomping at the bit, ready to get back to work. It didn't help for me that I really enjoy my work, and I like to have a routine. So the whole lockdown thing was a little bit of a difficult thing for me to get round, where I'd normally had a structure and I didn't have a structure anymore. But the positives were definitely getting to do stuff that I hadn't done, or getting to get through that list of stuff. You know, everyone has that list that's permanent because you never have the time to really get these things done, and you being able to actually tick these things off the list of stuff that need doing for the house, for me, for different things, was quite refreshing. And obviously have the time for myself to, you know, do some hobbies or pick up video gaming again was quite nice as well. So it was a balance of getting to do things I hadn't had time to do, but also not being able to interact with people as I wanted to. So there were definitely good things of it. It wasn't all bad, but it was just managing the time, really.
Some people have said it was a time of reflection. Was it that for you? It sounds like it was almost a time of waiting for life to start again.
For me, it was a little bit like life was on hold, but it was a little bit like a reflection because, as well as obviously working for New Look, which is my primary job, I do have my company, NoneOfThatJazz, and being able to spend the time to get the company to a place, because it's a registered company and I've registered my trademarks, etc. Getting, you know, doing some of the admin that was required to get it up and running further that I haven't had the time to do because I also work was really nice. Being able to reflect on my brand, what I want to be able to offer people, how I want my website to be, all of that kind of onerous stuff that takes time and thought that I hadn't had the time to sit down and do was quite nice. So I was able to reflect on what I wanted None of That Jazz to be, and where I wanted it to go, which was obviously beneficial, because then coming out of lockdown, I know what it is and how it's going to work, and I can go back to work and spend the time at work and not have to worry about it, just sitting there without my attention, because I've given it some attention and thought now.
And what is your vision for None of That Jazz?
So essentially, I want it to be my corner of the internet, basically. A lot of people separate their personal and business websites and blogs and things. A lot of people I know have a personal blog, but they also have a portfolio online that are separate. I think that because of all of my experience, that informs my work visually. So I think it's important for my personal blog and where you can see my portfolio and hire me to do work are in the same location, because if you want to hire me to do a job, you're able to be a bit more informed as to who I am as a person, which in turn informs the way I work. So that includes, obviously, I have written about my care experience, I've written about my university experience, I've written about a lot of different things on the blog that relate to me personally, that also just inform the way I work as an illustrator, as an animator, and informs my style, and just gives a bit more context as to who I am, basically. So you're able to kind of see who I am as a person, and also see the work I do and hire me to do the work.
That's really, it's really interesting, because I think that the ethical companies, and I'm thinking about Anita Roddick, who started the Body Shop. She's dead now, but I was thinking about her this weekend. I don't know why, and I was just thinking it was as much about her, because she was the first one to set up a business based on ethical. We're not going to be testing our products on animals. We're not going to be testing on, animals are not going to be harmed, and we're going to give that guarantee. And it really, that brand was about who she was, really. And I think that good ethical companies, you buy the people as much as the product, do you?
Definitely, yeah. You got to, when you're, especially now, cosmetics as an example, cosmetics and body as an example, because you brought up the Body Shop. A lot of people now are incredibly conscious about the back end of a company, not just the product that they're serving. They're incredibly conscious of ethics and diversity and animal testing and other types of rights, and the ethos of a company before they're willing to support them by purchasing from them. It's something the public is much more conscious of now than they potentially were 5-10 years ago. So I think, so I've tried to kind of embrace that as well, and as I'm a one-man show, I feel like it's important that people know who I am if they're gonna get me to do work for them and support me as an artist. So that's why I keep them as it's a blended website. My website is a one-stop location for everything kind of about me, basically. My blog, my work, a place where you can hire me for work if you so choose. Everything's all in one place. It also makes it easier for whoever is potentially going to hire you, because they're able to find everything. They don't have to, search other places for bits of information.
Yeah, it's all there. Okay, this brings us on to my next point, really, and about what does it mean to be a young person in today's world. And I'm thinking about the wider context of today's world, where, gosh, everyone has an opinion, and
Yes.
Everyone's expected to have an opinion. And also, you're a businesswoman and you are in the public eye. So, how do you have an opinion without losing friends or customers, or do you, or do you have an opinion that do you dare have opinions that might lose you 50% of the audience?
That is a really interesting point about opinions, because obviously part of what I do is I make YouTube videos and I write blog posts and I put stuff out to the public, which is all my opinion. And I think, to be fair, opinions on the internet is a very difficult thing, because putting them out there from behind your screen is very different to having a discussion with people in a group in person. I think there are a lot of people who are able to express themselves a lot more, for good or worse. It depends on your opinion, I guess. How ironic. On the internet as opposed to in person, because there's this kind of sense that you're not really speaking to anybody, whereas obviously in reality you're speaking to a much wider audience than if you were just talking amongst your friends. But it's kind of impersonable, like it's detached. If you were sharing and voicing controversial opinions with your friends, there's this sense of anxiousness that you could lose your friends. But if you are discussing this online, the same thing could happen, but because it feels detached, you're doing it from behind your screen, you're doing it alone, even if those same people are going to be reading it, we all feel a lot more comfortable. So it is something to be conscious of online, and that's why PR people exist. It is something that obviously people are conscious of. I'm conscious of it. It doesn't stop me from saying things I want to say. It does, however, inform the way that I present them. I'm not confrontational about anything, really. Like, if I'm putting an opinion out there that I think potentially people aren't going to agree with, if there is disagreement, say in like the comments or wherever, I'm never going to kind of start an argument in the comment section. If people don't share my opinion, they're more than welcome to have a different opinion from me. And even in my personal relationships with friends, I have friends who have different opinions to me on anything, really, from like their favorite like food to anything like real controversial important issues. But it doesn't get in the way of our relationship, because it's not directly affecting me and them. Obviously, if it was something between me and them, it would be a personal disagreement. I think the same applies to a wider audience online, is that if it's not something personal between you and a viewer or you and a commenter, then everyone has a right to their own opinions on that. As long as everyone is, if you're voicing and putting your opinions out there online, with an online presence especially, they need to be informed. And the people that you're presenting that opinion to should also be able to be informed that there are other options. A good example of that is in the past we've seen a lot of this anti-vaxxing stuff, with people of influence talking about that. Now, with that kind of thing, people have a right to their own personal choices and opinions, but the people that they are presenting that to also have the right to be informed from all sides. And if you're going to push that kind of argument, you have to understand that there are people that are going to disagree with you and are going to vocally disagree with you and present another side. So whenever I've said anything online, when I've talked about my care experience, when I've talked about this, that, and the other, especially with the care experience, actually, because I've had a different care experience from a lot of young people, I understand that there are people that have a different opinion on care. There are people that have a different opinion because they've had a different experience, and I never have turned around and said, no, you're wrong, it's not like that, because I don't know what it was like for them. They know what it was like for them. And it's the same for my animation as well. My work, I obviously have a style that I work in, but I would never and I turn around and say that someone else working in their style is wrong, because I don't work that way. So having an online presence and having opinions, you just have to be careful about how you present yourself. Because we can see, like, obviously you can see it online. You can see when people are, pushing their agenda online, and people don't get on with it quite well. It causes issues, as often these things get talked about online and go viral for the wrong reasons, which you never want. So it is a balance, and you just have to be careful with it, really, and never really push too strongly, which I would never, but if I wouldn't do it in person, then I wouldn't do it online, is basically my rule. So
yeah, okay, well, that's good. But it is a funny old world where opinions are, the last couple of years have been just opinion city, haven't they?
Opinions now are probably the most widely shared thing, the most widely traded goods in the world. With the internet and everything, everyone has their opinion, and everyone has always had their opinion. But with the internet and social media and having an online presence of any kind, opens up these worldwide avenues for you to share and voice your opinion, which for a lot of people is a great thing, because you come across like-minded people who have the same voice as you, which is excellent. But it also can be damaging, depending on, obviously, the topic. There have been obviously a lot of controversial discussions over the last few years online. So it is just an important balance of fact checking, and making sure that you're not going too far. Like, what is just voicing your opinion respectfully, and what is like forcefully pushing an agenda, and like making sure that we are on the right side of that line.
Yeah, you're right. It has to do with respect. It all boils down to respect, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think a lot of people, especially in heated discussions online with strangers, we lose sight of the fact that the people that we are discussing with are people as well, with their own opinions. And instead of bulldozing right through them, we have to have, respectful discussion rather than full-blown online arguments. Because as much as you want to voice your opinion, they also want to voice theirs, and they want to be heard as well. And it's kind of it's the old saying, treat others the way you'd like to be treated yourself. Like, it's the same online, it's the same anywhere. If you want to voice your opinion and be heard, so does anyone else, and we have to do so respectfully. Especially now, just obviously, for young people right now, basically everyone is online in some capacity. And with more and more different types of social media and more different developing kinds of communication than what was available 5-10 years ago, we are learning all new ways to communicate. But one of the key things should still be the people you're communicating with are still people, because I think sometimes we just lose touch with that, where we're on our phones rather than in front of the person. They are still people, and they still deserve respect the same as you do. Regardless of what it is that you're talking about.
Jay, that is a good thing. I like what you're selling there. I'll buy that.
Lovely. I just think obviously the internet and everything, it's a very good thing because it just opens up all of these channels for people, for connections, to make connections with people. You're getting the opportunity to meet people and communicate with people that you potentially wouldn't have had access to before, and that is a brilliant and valuable thing. We just have to treat it correctly and respect it, because it is a brilliant thing to have this connection and cultivate these relationships with people, but we have to cultivate them rather than abuse them.
Yeah. I got another question, last one, and I think we've already covered it in many respects, but and also you've definitely covered, but I don't think I've crafted this one as well, Jai. So it says, how does your experience of care inform the different views that you have? So you mentioned about care, and some people have a really positive experience of care. Some people have it's not been a good experience for them, so they're a bit down on anybody involved with care. But if you could talk about lockdown and care, can we approach especially that one? So if I could ask you that question again.
Lockdown and care, for me, it didn't have a particular impact, and for me that's fine, but for a lot of people it was a major impact. I am fairly independent at this stage. I'm also as Hampshire would put me, I'm former relevant. So I do still receive support. I do still have a personal advisor. I still have those connections, but I rarely require attention, which is a great position for me to be in. And it is a good thing. It meant that throughout lockdown, I did have communication, but I rarely needed anything. I knew that they were there if I needed them, but I didn't, which was great. For a lot of people, though, especially those in care rather than care leavers, it's a drastic cut-off. Especially, I imagine, for those who are newly gone into care. If we imagine ourselves as young adults who have just been relocated into a new house, into a new family unit that we're unfamiliar with and just getting used to, we still potentially have old connections with friends and schools. We've been kept in the same school. We still have that level of normality. If we're imagining that is something that helps keep us on track. And now all of a sudden that's been taken away. We are stuck at home that's not our home yet because we've only just arrived. We are interacting with these people we barely know, who are trying their best to look out for us, but we don't know what their intentions are. It's a very frightening experience to be in, because all of the things that were normal to you, like your friends and school, the things that have remained constant and stable amongst all of this unstableness, have also just been ripped away for a long period. It would be completely destabilizing and, frankly, for some people completely traumatic, and I know that that's been the case for a lot of young people, but it's obviously very difficult, because what can you do? What kind of support do you put in? There's got to be, for a lot of young people, it's just they need something that is a constant for them. And school and friends that you know are often that constant. And during lockdown, I imagine it was very difficult for a lot of people. And I know as well that for new care leavers as well, people who have newly left their foster placements and have branched out on their own, and they're just getting set up and just getting their lives together, to suddenly go into lockdown again is very difficult, because they're still trying to build something for themselves, and then their lives have been put on hold. How do you move forward as a young person trying to build something when the whole world is kind of shut down for 2 months? It's a very difficult scenario to have been in. I imagine. Obviously, I was lucky enough to already be established where I am and already be stable, and I have those constants in my life that I can rely on. Yeah, my work was taken away and it did make me a little anxious and frantic, but I have other constants in my life that didn't change. And for a lot of people, they don't have that. So that's why when I voice online, obviously my experience of care being positive and being the best thing that's ever happened to me, frankly, I know that that isn't the case for a lot of people, and I know that especially during the past 6 months with everything that's been going on with lockdown, that potentially unideal care experiences may have even been made worse by the situation going on in the country, and we have to be very conscious of the fact that everyone is going through their own issues, and everyone is, when you're voicing your opinions and your experience online, you have to be very conscious of the fact that everyone's going through something differently. So I hope that when I put out content that includes my positive experience, that people who haven't had it as good take away from it that it doesn't have to be bad, and that it can be a positive thing for people, and that they're just having a bad time now, and that obviously that's they hopefully can work around that and work through that and get to a place where they can be secure and have a positive outlook on their care experience.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Jay. Really. Thank you. Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
I think we've covered a lot of it, actually. I'm pleased at where this discussion's gone, and I think talking about it is important. Talking about it, whether it's good or bad, is important. Because any of it, you don't know. If one person listens and goes away feeling inspired, feeling informed, even if it's just one person, then this was all worth it, and we've won.
Brilliant. Okay, well then we're going to leave it there, Jay. Thank you very much. Keep a lookout for podcast number 2, because you're going to be on it. We'll take it from there.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much for having me and getting me involved.
You're welcome.